What's up, guys? Davey from Blackstone Trailer here. Today we got this 20-foot landscape trailer. This is a local customer to my house, so we're here at the home shop. I loosely went over this a little bit. There's no running lights, a marker light missing down at the bottom. Needs a set of bearings, just needs some service. We got to go over all the wiring, check the frame, check everything. Go through all the expanded metal on the gates, make sure nothing's popping up, weld it down if we need to. Just kind of give it a good overall service. These guys like to get ahead of their maintenance, so even though it's only December here, but a week before Christmas, they want to get all their units ready to go for spring, so when the snow's gone, they just hook up and go. So we're gonna try and get it stuck in my home shop today. You can see there's kind of stuff everywhere, and it is a little bigger than it looks like on camera, but it's still going to be pretty tight. But I'd rather get out of the wind and the cold outside, so let's get this place up, make some room on the workbench, and get after it. Okay, much better. So now let's see if we can shoehorn that thing in here with the mini skid. All right, well, I mean, it is in. I'm going to be climbing over it the whole time, and there's might get in there to fix that marker light, but we can always yank it out and deal with the marker light after. I'm going to get the heaters thrown on here for melting some of the snow off, so I'm not working in a puddle the whole time. All right, it's actually the next day. Some other stuff came up, so we just let this thaw completely out and dry. So now we're not gonna get wet rolling around underneath it. So I'm gonna get it up in the air, get the wheels off, get the hubs off. All the hubs are off and on the bench now. The back axle in this, when I started looking at it and then went back through the invoices, we actually put a rear axle in this about a year and a half ago. Had a really bad failure on the right side or the passenger side. So that got a new axle. I believe we put new brakes in it, new backing plates rather. And I think the drum was still good on this side, so the customer opted to reuse it, but we had to put one on the other side. It was completely toast. So drums are off and on the bench. I don't know how easy it's going to be able to see through the camera, but they are getting pretty dark. There's a lot of browning in all of them. The grease, this will be hard to see, but the grease is basically black. With the exception of this one, which was a newer hub, still kind of blue, but in around the bearings, it was all black. So it likely hasn't been serviced in, well, probably since we put that axle in it. At some point, and I don't believe this was me, but it also got the heavy duty suspension kit. So thicker equalizers, greasable pins, greasable bolts, much better system. I've installed these on customers' trailers years ago, and I actually just went out and looked at one not that long ago, and the suspension was still tight. The guy services it all the time. This setup will outlast those poly bushings and normal hardware tenfold if you maintain them. I also went to a customer's place a few months ago where we had done a whole setup on his. We did springs, HD suspension hardware, all of it. And it was almost a year to the day. I think it was 364 days we put that kit in. He called me back. It was making a pile of noise. Not a lick of grease in any of it. Bone dry. Wore it out just the same as a poly setup. And they run their stuff pretty heavy. So as long as you maintain it, that HD suspension setup works much better. Twice as thick plates, greasable hardware, brass bushings. It's fantastic. Now, they probably haven't been doing the maintenance on this one because there is a bit of wobble. So those bushings are wore out. So we're going to take that apart, replace the bolts if we need to, and get that back tight. This thing does have to go for safety in the spring, so it's got to be ready to go. I rolled around underneath it looking for anything obvious, and this thing is in awesome shape. We're up in Canada. there's a bit of surface rust and stuff here and there, which is to be expected. These guys don't run these trailers in the summer, as it's a property maintenance company. These are only for lawn maintenance. The odd time they might move something in the winter, but it's rare. So this one, exceptional shape. Part of that is due to it being an all steel angle trailer. So it's all made out of angle iron, which is, look, if you want a trailer buying tip for Canada, and I get a lot of these calls, if you're dead set on buying a steel trailer, make sure it's a C-channel or an angle iron built trailer. Tube trailers rot out all the time, all the time. Past that, if you're looking to spend a little more money, and when you get up into the $10,000 to $20,000 range, it's not that much more to jump up to, say, an aluminum trailer, or even a galvanized. But it also depends on what you're using it for. Aluminum trailer, if you're a homeowner, you're doing light duty stuff, you just need a trailer for, I don't know, hauling the lawn tractor around, or maybe a snowmobile here and there, or an ATV, aluminum. Light, especially if you're towing it with something smaller, crossover SUV, half ton. My enclosed trailer is an all aluminum. Benefits there, you get more payload because the trailer is lighter, and I was pulling it with a half ton, so I wanted to save that extra like 700 or 800 pounds. If you're going to use it all the time, say like these guys in a commercial setting, or you're hauling heavy, say it's a 10-ton float, 15-ton float, definitely galvanized. More money, yes, but when the trailer costs 30 grand, an extra 5 to go galvanized isn't a huge hit on that monthly payment. I would recommend it tenfold. So anyways, I digress. Back to the trailer. We're gonna get all new bearings, all new races, seals, all of it in there. I got a nice bearing kit here that will service all four that a local supplier put together for me, and then we'll go through it. There's one marker light missing on the other side that we got to take care of, and I got to figure out why the running lights don't work. So we'll get this done. All right, so hubs all cleaned out, new races in, bearings packed, new seals in, getting ready to throw them back on. One point I wanted to bring up that not many people think about is if the oil in those hubs, or sorry, not oil, grease in those hubs is dirty, discolored, just done for altogether, the grease that's going to be going through the drilling and the spindle is probably also the same, in the same condition, right? So one thing I like to do, especially when it's one that's really dirty, or the grease is just completely toast, is before the hub goes back on, pump a bit of grease through the the drilling until it's full of fresh grease. That way when you go put the hub on and you go to add grease, or just when you're down the road when they do a general service, that way you're not contaminating the grease in the hubs that's brand new with whatever is left inside of this drilling. And I know it's not a whole lot, but you want to get all that stuff out. You want to take pride in your work. You don't want to be filling or pumping old grease into new grease. That just doesn't make sense. So we'll slowly pump some in here until we got the red coming out, and there was 2 different colors of grease there. So it's been a while, and it's probably been mix and match. So we'll go around, we'll do it with the other one on this side, the other 2 on the other side, and then we'll get to putting the hubs on. Okay, all 4 hubs are on. They're all greased, bearing adjustment set. The kit came with all new castle nuts, washers, cotter pins, all of it. So we put it all new in there. And I was getting ready to put the dust caps on, and I thought I would show this. So I know there's a couple companies out there that make drivers for dust caps. Now, in the spirit of DIY and from my previous life, I had access to a lathe, which I don't know how to use, so I got my brother-in-law, the machinist, to help me. But these are essentially shortened C15 Caterpillar head bolts that we pressed into a machined round washer of obviously 3 different sizes, welded, then welded the flat washers to some round stock, and then Matt milled out the inside of it to be just a slightly, the idea of this, just slightly larger than the OD of the cap. That way, if you have one that's been painted over, it doesn't get stuck on there or dent or ding the cap in any way. So we did 3 of them, one for 3,500 size dust caps, 52 size, and 7,000 pound sized caps. And they work very well. And I know there's a couple of companies out there that make these, but I mean, little bit of cost and materials, and we made something that's kind of cool. So I think it's worth it. Let me know in the comments. But I'm gonna get the dust caps on this thing, and then suspension wise, I'll probably throw the wheels on this side, drop it down, do the suspension on the other side. I like, when possible, keeping one side with the wheels on the ground. That way, when you take the suspension apart, most of the time, the suspension you're taking apart, the springs and the axles will kind of stay in place. Sometimes you got to support them, lift them, lower them, if you got to get into the back of the leaf spring there that's in the hanger on the frame. But yeah, it kind of makes things simpler. And then that way, when you take it apart, you don't have a situation where the springs drop below the equalizer, and then now you're messing around trying to get it flipped back the right way. So for the time and effort it takes just to throw a couple wheels on with a few lug nuts and drop one side down, makes the other side so much easier. So we'll get the caps on this and move on to suspension. Well, bit of change of plans here. So I started taking this side apart. That piece of hardware seems to be seized inside the spring. That guy seized inside both of the shackle plates. I've been beating on it, doesn't want to come free, not nicely anyways. While I'm waiting on parts, I'm going to move on to the electrical side of things. There is one marker light back here that's gone MIA, and this style of marker light is pretty difficult to find local, so I think we're going to throw something different on there. It's one of those, doesn't really matter what it looks like, it's a work trailer, just as long as it's got all its lights and it passes safety type thing. So we'll get a light put back on it, and then we got to figure out why not one of the running lights are working. So okay, so test box hooked up here. There's no reverse lights, which we know. I better switch that back to 7 spade. I was dealing with a 7 round trailer. Yeah, so no reverse lights. Not hooked up to 12 volt. There is a breakaway battery. A lot of trailers, at least up here anyways, aren't hooked up to charge that battery for whatever reason. So we're going to pull out that battery, test it. If it has lots of voltage in it, great. If not, we'll put a charge in it and stick it back in. But no tail lights, which is our main problem. But we will have reverse and brake lights, so we can see it flashing there on the right side, and we're flashing on the left. So the tail lights, those are our problems. Now this trailer is kind of neat because it was a bit more purpose built and a bit better quality, I guess. The harness that's ran through this one is a modular harness, so you have a front section that will have your 7-pin plug on it. It gets plugged in way down in here. It'll be hard to see. But then there's multiple different sections that connect together down the trailer. And it's basically made so you could have any length trailer, any amount of marker lights or clearance lights. The plugs, where it all plugs together, will have little drops. And those could be for constant power for charging, a breakaway battery, or maybe a winch battery, or anything else. It will have drops for your marker lights as you go down, and then obviously it'll have drops for the taillights on both sides. So it's a great setup. The tricky part is that if any corrosion gets in those plugs, nothing's labeled. You don't know what pin or what socket does what. So when it's this sort of complaint, usually the first thing I'll jump to is the junction box in the front of the trailer and check and see if there's power even coming from our 7-pin to the junction box. But with this style of harness, there is no junction box in it unless somebody has gone in there and put one in. So I think the first thing I'm going to jump to here is I'm going to take the 7-pin apart. It doesn't look terrible, but these molded harnesses have a molded 7-way plug, and this is not that, and you can tell because of the way that it is. So I'm going to take this apart and see what's happening in here. We might get lucky and it might have just been disconnected in here. We also might, if we don't see anything, we'll clean these pins out or these spades out, push them back in a little bit to get a better connection. It could just be a connection issue in the plug too. So we'll take this apart, take a look, clean it up. If we don't find anything in there, then we're just going to have to start tracing back. Now, the fact that none of the marker lights work, and the way that these harnesses are, where they do drops every time there's an extension plugged in, that would mean that the problem has got to be between this 7-way plug and likely the first 6 or 7 feet of the plug. Because if it was an issue down the back, you would still have your running lights working up here. You would just, wherever that break or that fault was, you would have no lights past that, but you should still have lights forward of that. So I'm going to take this apart and take a look and see what it looks like inside. I am very glad that I'm not doing this outside today. It wasn't too bad this morning. Now, you guys might not be able to hear it, but I can hear that wind just whistling away. So that does not sound like a very fun time. Okay. So that was replaced relatively recently, because that is very, very clean. And I don't see any issue with it. Well, so much for the easy thing. So we'll spin this back together, and I'll try cleaning up the spades a little bit and pushing them back in. Make a little bit tighter of a connection. If that doesn't solve it, then I'm gonna have to get a creeper and start rooting around underneath. Oh, just the plastic. Okay, so I should have a kit here. Not that often this kit comes out, but it is very handy. It's from Mac Tools. I'm sure other manufacturers make it. My guess would be that, like my IPA test box here that I bought through Mac, I believe these are a tool set from IPA, just rebranded Mac, and it's got, you know, various different sizes depending on what you're doing. But we can get a file in here. And everything just cleaned up a little bit. Even if this isn't cleaned up, at least it's a nice little service for the plug. Definitely lots of debris in there. Likely just stuff that was getting stuck from the dielectric grease that was at one time either in here or in the truck socket. So just to test, not saying that this is a permanent fix by any means, but if this fixes it, we're still going to change the plug. But just to see if we get a little better connection, sometimes push that spade in a bit and it just helps make that connection just a little bit better. It feels tighter. Okay, survey says now it's working. Look at that. We all going? Going. One's missing. Good, working. Surprised this doesn't have fender lights on it. It's wide enough. Okay, we're all good. So, that tells me that the plug just might be wore out a little bit. So, I'm gonna stick a new plug on it. I figured while I'm thinking about it, let's check and see if we have power for this marker light that's missing. And then I'll run out to the truck and see if I got anything that'll work. And I'm pretty sure there is power. Yep. Looks like my test box needs to charge. Okay, so I gotta find a light that'll go over this hole. And I'm pretty sure I got something in the truck somewhere. Alright, well, there you have it. Not the most elegant solution, but I can't find any of these style that go into a grommet that would fit in this hole. Not that it would fit very well because it's been getting banged up and all dented and warped. So right above it, threw in a little 3/4 round penny light. This way, if they decide to try and find one of these and they find one, we still could put one in. I don't think it's going to sit very well. I know it's hard for you guys to see, but it's pretty beat up. So get these heat shrunk. You need a zip tie them up in there. I got the battery tested okay for the junction box. Sorry, not the junction box, for the breakaway. So I'm going to let that charge up for a bit, stick it back in. Okay, so change of plans again. We got to thinking about it. I realized that I had this tool I made for an air hammer to remove stuck bushings, mainly the copper ones or the brass ones, because this will just, it won't do anything to the plastic ones. So I was able to get the bushings out, and the leaf springs actually aren't that bad. So we're opting to leave the leaf springs alone for now. I'm gonna go get new hardware, and then the shackle plates are really worn out, and the equalizer, every bushing in it's gone. It may have gotten into the equalizer a little bit, so we're gonna go get some new hardware, get some new equalizers, and we'll get this thing back together and tow it out of here. All right, so we're pulling up to one of my suppliers, Vehicle Venture in Bradford, who's a trailer dealer, and she also deals parts. If Nadia in here is fantastic. If you guys need a trailer, if you need parts, if she doesn't have it, she can get it usually really quickly. So if you guys need anything, come and see her. Tell her Davey with Blackstone sent you. So let's grab these parts and we'll get back and finish it up. Well, one thing led to another, and I got back, threw the heat on, threw some music on, and totally forgot that I was supposed to be recording any of this. So other side's done. This side here is done as well, and it's all greased up. All new bolts, equalizer, heavy duty shackle plates, just match what was missing, and the brass bushings. So this is it. I'm gonna throw some wheels on, torque it, throw all the tools I pulled out of the service truck back into the service truck, get this thing yanked out and delivered. So anyhow, thanks for watching, guys. Till the next one.